Welcome to Story Hour, a virtual meetup hosted by Wolf and Heron.
All right, Neha, so the stage is yours.
Reading the Harry Potter series for the first time as a kid, I, like everyone else, wanted to be in one house. We all know which one it was, Gryffindor, where dwelled the brave at heart. But even then, I knew that was unlikely because not because of what you're thinking. It's not because Hogwarts is a fictional school. It's because while I have many, many qualities in my heart, I do not think bravery is one of them. My place, I knew very early on, was in Ravenclaw, those of wit and learning. In high school, for example, most of my classmates remembered me when they needed help with last-minute exam prep, and I accepted that that was who I was going to be. The girl whose public speaking voice was a whisper, who always knew the answers and was never seen without a book in hand. The girl who scandalized everyone when she made a joke because nobody thought to realize that she might have a sense of humor. And then I got to college. I found myself becoming friends with girls whose conversations matched my intellectual wavelength, girls who were so opinionated that in those conversations you either had to express them or stay silent. And so I really learned to yell out things that I was thinking. I learned partner dances, which first negated my stereotype of myself that I was not a good dancer, didn't know what it took to dance, and then taught me to advocate for what I wanted in a dance instead of accepting what a lead chose for me. And I developed my sense of humor. Some people are still surprised when I make a joke. Some things will never change. But now most people who have met me even once know I have a very sardonic, very dry wit, and I'm ready to use it on anyone and anything. And all those things build up, right, over time. It's been 6 years since that all happened, since I got to college. And so by the time I attended Angelique Kidjo's Remain in Light concert in Ann Arbor in March, and she invited the audience up on stage to dance with her, I was ready. I was more confident. I was secure in my dancing ability. I was willing to take the chance that I might have to laugh at myself afterward. But even then, I might not have gotten up on stage if there weren't several ladies who had until then been dancing in the aisle next to me. I don't know them. I don't even remember their names, and I'm not even sure I remember their faces. But their presence and companionship in that moment made it really easy for me to take those steps to the stage. Things like this, they don't happen, choices like that don't happen in a vacuum, right? It's a series of small choices made over a lifetime that build up over a period of time, but they're not individual. You don't make them unaffected by anyone else. They're supported, those choices are supported and enabled by people and past experiences. The person I am right now, I think, is aspirational. Just like being in Gryffindor, the person I am now is aspirational for school-age me reading the Harry Potter books. But my experiences have been a logical progression, influenced by these little choices that I've made over the past 6 years. Maybe someday it'll build up to a major act, although I can't give you an example because that would spoil the Harry Potter ending. Or maybe it won't. Either way, I'm happy being a Ravenclaw, but perhaps I have a little more Gryffindor in me than I thought.
Yay! Thank you, Neha, for sharing your story.
Yeah!
Okay, what should she hold on to? What was powerful about that story? Stephanie.
I like the Harry Potter bookends. It's always really cute when stories start where they end, with some kind of new perspective built in. So that just, it's very nicely ties the story together.
John.
I haven't, I've read J.K. Rowling, but I actually haven't read Harry Potter. And in spite of that, like, I 100% knew exactly what you meant with your analogy it made sense to me in spite of not having read the book. So it was very clear and enjoyable. Like it made sense, and it put everything else you said in context in a way, or added context, I guess I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated your delivery. I thought you did quite a good job with your energy and with projection and with pace. It shifted. There was some dynamics. And I know we've talked about that before. So I just wanted to let you know that I thought that this felt like you were intentionally using those skills, and at the same time it felt natural to you as someone who's known you as long as I have, which is not quite long, but it didn't feel performative. It felt organic.
Yeah.
Did I see another hand? Molly.
I was gonna also comment on delivery. Like, I loved your tone of voice. There's something really calming about the way you told the story, and like kind of felt inspired, and like, it just, I don't know, it's like, you know, when you just hear a voice and you're like, this person is just in my soul right now. That's sort of how I felt. I don't know how to like say that in a more articulate way, but that's how I felt. And then I like a particular part I really loved was when you talked about, like, I don't remember their names or their faces, but you spoke to the feeling that they gave you. Like, that was beautiful. And going back to like that Zoom presence, I love when you like would kind of like, I don't know if you were reading like notes or something, but I love when you'd get like, you were closer here and then you'd like kind of lean back and like talk a little bit more, and then you'd come forward. It was just a really cool like interaction. I don't know, small things that make a difference in my opinion.
No, that's interesting. I was trying to not look like I was reading notes, which is why I kept leaning.
And it didn't look that way.
Okay, good.
When you kind of like would sit back and relax a little, it just felt like you were like talking from your brain. You know, you were like speaking your thoughts.
Sarah.
I appreciate your observation of what you learned from life in terms of making little choices leads to being able to make bigger choices, and how that, you know, it's a beautiful observation. And I felt you really took that lesson in for yourself, and you were really sharing that, you know, in a way that, you know, that gave me something, you know, in terms of looking at how, you know, little choices matter, you know, and they you know, they do build self-esteem.
You did such a good job of picking a theme and sticking to it. Like, your story was just so easy to follow. Sometimes we go off on tangents, trying to over-explain and give, you know, 25 years of background or 18 years of background. You just did such a good job of staying so laser focused on what your point is, and everything you said fed back to that point. It was really great. So that's one. And the other thing I noticed, the three storytellers today, it's interesting. They're so different in each of your delivery. Your pace and your pauses were so completely different than the other storytellers, but still so powerful. You did such a good job of having those moments where you kind of pause, and it seemed very natural, like you were thinking about your story. But then for me as a listener, it made me stop, and like it gave me a chance to kind of process those little moments. It just seemed extremely natural. If you hadn't admitted that you had notes, I would never have known. It just felt like you were telling me that story. The pace to me felt very perfect. And then combined with that first comment, it was just so easy to follow.
Stephanie.
You know, we often give the advice when people tell stories that take place over a long period of time. It's almost always that somewhere in the feedback, the comment will come up like, just like pick one moment and go deep on that moment. And yet this version of this story, to Sarah's comment, was great. And I think it's because you were so good at staying focused on your theme and finding the 7 moments that like connected with a theme in a way that like I did not feel like I needed you to go deep on one of these micro moments in any way, because your point was it's about the small the small decisions, the small choices along the way. And so it felt very meta in some ways. And I was like, all right, here's an example of the counterpoint. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was actually worried about that when I was writing it last night, this morning, that there were maybe too many things. So I realized it was a little bit broad, but
you still had under 4 minutes. It was great. You could have gone another minute and still.
I thought I was going to go over.
No, but I thought it worked.
Any ideas for what Neha could experiment with, try out next time?
I mean, you could try as an experiment to just pick one moment, just to play devil's advocate. But I don't know that it would necessarily make your story more powerful.
To the 4-minute comment, though, I think you could slow down a bit. And it might be because it's your first time sharing a story here, so there's a little bit of adrenaline. But I think that there was a bit of it that felt faster throughout versus what you would naturally do for your voice. So just something to make sure whatever your pace is, that you're doing it intentionally and not rushing because of breath or anything like that. Other thoughts?
Yeah, what Molly said about shaking in my boots. You should see me writing these notes down. My handwriting's not even legible right now.
I know, I'm still have stage fright, so I feel it.
Good.
I got better at making presentations through like middle school and college, but anything out of that is still a little bit jumpy.
Healthy. I still get that way too. Every time. Any ideas? Other ideas? One thing that comes up, which I have complicated feelings about myself, is that people have complicated feelings about Harry Potter right now. And so just to consider that, depending on who you're sharing the story with, that might, for some people, be a non-starter, and some people probably don't even know what I'm talking about. So it kind of depends.
I was going to say, is it Harry Potter or is it J.K. Rowling?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Complicated. Ugh. This world is gray.
Yeah. Well, or the idea that, John said it wasn't an issue, but people might not have the same context, but I think you explain it. So that's not a problem.
Right.
Yeah, I worried about that a little bit too when I was writing it.
Thank you, Neha, for your story, and thank you, everyone, for your feedback.
Thank you guys so much for your comments.
Visit wolfandheron.com to find out more about our story hours.